Warning: the following podcast may contain coarse language and is intended for Philadelphia Eagles fans. Fuck the Cowboys.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Birds Locker podcast, a post-game show following the very disappointing 20-17 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Initial reaction: sadness, disappointment, a shitload of anger, and just what the fuck has happened to this team and to this organization. We've lost our edge, our hunger, the desire to win. And this loss just puts us right back to the pack. We're now relying on Dallas losing to try and wrestle the division back. And the number 1 seed now is basically a pipe dream from here on out, with San Fran basically in the box seat to win it. And the dreaded curse continues. Still haven't beaten Seattle since 2008. We're better than them in a number of stats, including time of possession, better third down efficiency, more total yards, more first downs. Didn't give up a sack, but the critical areas. We lost the turnover battle once again with 2 interceptions to them not giving the ball up at all. Third down defense again wasn't great. And more importantly, we're simply beaten on the scoreboard 20-17. Just a disastrous game, really. All right, now offensively, it was a disaster again. It's the 3rd game in a row and the 4th game this season where we have scored less than 20 points. No surprises, all 4 of those games have been our losses. It just shows that if we don't score, we don't win. Very simple. We ran 31 passes to 38 runs. It was a fairly balanced attack where we leaned on the run a bit more, and to be fair, the run game was working. 4.7 yards per carry, you'd take that every day of the week. The passing game, though, average yards per attempt was 4.6, which is actually putrid. Jalen Hurts was going to be our most important player and the key to us winning the game, and he simply just laid an egg. He was 17 of 31, 54.8% completion percentage, 143 yards with 2 interceptions. I know he had 2 rushing touchdowns and ran the ball pretty well, but I don't know what's happened. But please bring back the Jalen of last season. This simply isn't it. Especially those boneheaded interceptions. He just didn't make those last year. And even the year before, they weren't as frequent as they have been in these last 2 weeks. And it's such a huge thing to our game. When he's playing well, we play well. And when he plays bad, we just look terrible. And last couple of weeks, it's been disastrous. And I blame a lot of it on Brian Johnson's play calling. I don't think he's helping him, but man, he just needs to get back on track. And we don't have many weeks for that to happen before this stuff really, really does count. Now, looking at defensively, I actually thought we were pretty good defensively. I think that multiple times we bailed out the offense, but the offense just simply didn't cash in on the good defensive work that we did have. We had 208 yards passing against at 66% and 6.3 yards per attempt. Those are pretty good numbers. Those are not bad. Yeah, the completion percentage is probably a bit high, but they're not really getting a lot of yards for those completions, and we take that every day of the week. We kept them to 100 yards rushing at 4.2 yards per carry. Again, another stat that you would take every day of the week. As far as the bad news on the defensive side, we only got to Drew Lock twice. This was something that I mentioned in the pregame that I thought was going to be a huge factor, was whether we could get to the quarterback. To only get to him twice was probably not enough, and we just weren't able to kill those drives off. Third down conversion, although ours was better on offense than theirs, it was still at 42.8%, and that's just not good enough. Like, we're still not getting off the field on third down. We didn't produce a turnover again. This is just it's probably the biggest difference in the game. It was the thing that won them the game, was the simple fact that they got 2 turnovers off of us and we got none from them. And I really feel like as much as they bailed the offense out at times, especially after the first interception to force them to punt, but we just couldn't seal the game at the end. And James Bradbury was just awful on that drive and wasn't able to finish it. And that really came back to hurt us. All right, now let's go drive by drive for this game and get a bit of analysis into it. First half, first drive of the game, very balanced, and we worked our way all the way down the field, which resulted in a Hurts quarterback draw to put the Birds up 7-0. Perfect drive, perfect start for the game, and honestly, I thought it would be a big momentum boost for us. Second drive, the Seahawks were forced to punt. So 3 and out too. Very good start again. But we weren't able to take advantage on that third drive where we were forced to punt as well, keeping the score at 7-0 at this point. We then, on the fourth drive of the game, were able to force the Seahawks to punt again, still keeping the score 7-0. On the fifth drive, we were able to march down the field. We even converted a fourth down and got ourselves into really good field position, but weren't able to punch it in again. Bit of an Achilles heel for us, finishing in the red zone. And we were forced to kick a field goal, which put us up 10-0. On the sixth drive of the game, the Seahawks also marched down the field and weren't able to cash in completely, but did manage to get on the board and force a field goal, which then put the score at 10-3. Then it was a bit of a disastrous finish to the half for both teams. We both gave each other opportunities to score again before the half. Neither was able to take advantage, and it was the seventh drive was an Eagles punt, the eighth drive was a Seahawks punt, and the ninth drive was an Eagles punt that also saw out the game clock for the half. So at halftime, it was Philadelphia 10, Seattle 3. All right, now for the second half. On the 10th drive of the game, the Seahawks could not have started the half any better, marching the ball down our throat and just slamming it every drive with the run. And it resulted in a 23-yard Kenneth Walker touchdown to tie the game. On the 11th drive, though, we responded in the best way possible, utilising the pass game mainly to get down the field and with another Hurts brotherly shove to put us up 17-10. Defense responded well, forcing the Seahawks to punt on the 12th drive of the game, with the score remaining at 17-10 Philly. Offense couldn't cash in on the next drive, resulting in another punt to keep the score at 17-10 Philly. On the 14th drive, which I thought was a pretty controversial drive as a result, we got them to fourth down. And on that fourth down play, James Bradbury breaks up a pass intended for DK Metcalf, which looked completely clean, legit, no issues, no dramas, and they flagged him for defensive pass interference, which on the replay just simply wasn't there. It was a very, very bad call, and I mean, refs make mistakes just as players do, but that was one I think that they would like to have back. But that proved to be a very costly call because that resulted in a Seattle field goal on that drive, which proved to be the difference at the end of the day. On the 15th drive, we moved the ball pretty well. We got to Seattle's 45 and we were on 1st and 10 when disaster struck. Jalen Hurts dropped back, threw a bomb down the field to Quez Watkins, who really didn't fight that hard for the ball. Was he interfered with? Maybe. It did look like there was some interference there, but the reality is he didn't fight nearly hard enough for the ball, and it resulted in a Julian Love interception, which proved very costly. Again, it looked like one of those hero throws from Hurts that just wasn't needed. We had the ball. We were in a good spot. We got one of the best kickers in the game. We could have easily done with another maybe 5 to 10 yards and just kicked a field goal. It would have been, still a touchdown lead. It proved very costly at the end of the day. Defense, though, on the 16th drive of the game, bailed the offense out once again by forcing a Seattle punt. This keeping the score at 17-13 Philly. But on the 17th drive, again, this offense just could not make the plays that it needed to make and was forced to punt once again in this game, keeping the score at 17-13 Philly. This was the drive that really hurt. The 18th drive of the game. Seattle marches down the field. A huge catch on 3rd and 10 to DK Metcalf to keep the drive alive on James Bradbury, and the big touchdown catch to Jackson Smith and Jigba to give them the lead with less than 30 seconds to go. All on James Bradbury, who had a very horrible game. Just plain and simple. That one really stung. On the 19th drive, surprisingly, we got ourselves to the 45-yard line. We only really had time for one more play and then to stop the clock with a timeout. But honestly, 15 yards would have given us at least a long-range shot. And once again, Hurts just dropped back and went for the hero ball, and it was just not there, and he was picked off. And that kept the score at 17-20 Seattle, and they kneeled the game out from there. Offensively, we had 10 drives for the game for 2 touchdowns, 1 field goal, 2 interceptions, and 5 punts. Defensively, they had also 10 drives for the game. They had 2 TDs, 2 field goals, 5 punts, and they kneeled the game out. Just to put it into perspective, they effectively had 10 drives, but one of them was kneeling the game out. So 9 drives that they were intending to score on. Of those 9 drives, they scored on 4 of them. On our 10 drives that we intended to score on, we scored on 3. That's the difference then and there. Like, we just simply could not score efficiently enough to win the game. And it came back to bite us. And we've gotten away with some close wins this year, but we're starting to not get away with the losses. And yeah, things are going to have to change fast if anything's going to happen. Now, although it's a bit of a somber game, it was a bad week. Player of the week for this week, I'm looking at Sydney Brown. I thought he stepped up when he needed to. He had 4 solo tackles, 2 assists. There were a number of plays and drives that were ended by him. And, you know, it's a silver lining in a very bad week, but this could be a very bright future with him and Blankenship at safety. I definitely like the fact that we have 2 young, really talented players there who can move around the field quite a bit, and they like to finish plays. It's a good thing to have, and I really think that those 2 can have a bright future if they keep trending in this right direction. All right, now let's take a look at the division standings. Now, as a result, now we are, after Dallas's loss and our loss, we are still tied at 10-4. Dallas is currently ahead in the tiebreaker, but we still do control our destiny. Should we win out, we would take control of the division based on the tiebreakers. The Giants are still mathematically not eliminated at 5-9, but I anticipate that will happen soon. Washington are officially eliminated at 4-10 and will probably be just chasing the highest pick they can. As for the rest of the NFC, Detroit is level with Philly and Dallas at 10-4 and could snare the 2nd seed, but they are currently behind in the tiebreakers. Tampa currently leads the lowly NFC South at 7-7 and a level with the Saints. That will be an interesting one to watch as the season finishes. San Francisco, they're currently in the box seat for this number 1 seed at 11-3, and they need only 2 out of the last 3 games as wins to secure it. As for the AFC, Baltimore are currently the number 1 seed at 11-3. A couple of big weeks coming up, but they could secure it within a couple of weeks. Miami, the number 2 seed, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, it's pretty much between them and Baltimore for that number 1 and 2 seed at 10-4, and they are currently sitting at 10-4. In the AFC South, there is a 3-way tie with Jacksonville leading Indy and Houston on the tiebreaker, with all 3 teams sitting at 8-6. That is going to be a hellacious finish, and I'm all here for it. Kansas City are in control, firmly in control of the West at 9-5, and don't look in any danger of missing out on that whatsoever. All right, this is a little segment I'll call Fly Up and Fly Down, where I look at 3 players or things or people or anything within the organisation that is trending upwards, and I look at 3 things that are trending downwards. Now, in this game, it was pretty hard to find things up, but we will try our best here. Fly Up. Sydney Brown. Fantastic game. Took a massive opportunities with the snaps that he had, and I see a bright future with this kid. I really do. Fly Down. Jalen Hurts. Another bad week. It's now 3 in a row where he hasn't been able to carry the offense. I certainly do not blame him entirely, but there is a lot that has to fall on his shoulders. Fly Up. Fletcher Cox. Do I think Fletcher Cox is playing at an all-pro level? No. Do I think he's, dominating every aspect of when he's on the field? No. But he keeps making plays. As a veteran, I don't think he even plays beyond this year, but it's nice to see him finishing strong. And he got another sack this week, and he keeps making these big plays, and it's really good to watch. And I'm been a huge fan of his, and I really like seeing him continue to play well. Fly Down. James Bradbury. With Darius Slay being out, we needed somebody to step up. I thought we got some pretty good play out of Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks. James Bradbury couldn't have shit the bed any worse than he did. He was disastrous. And he's been disastrous all year. He has fleeced us. He's a thief. He has stolen money from this team for the play that he's put on the field. Fly Up. Jalen Carter. Another sack for the rookie. He is going to be a menace. This kid is going to be one of the best D linemen this team has ever seen if we keep him. Just an unbelievable talent. And he keeps showing it week in, week out. And the stronger he gets, the more accustomed he gets to the NFL, the less people are going to be able to stop him. And it's going to be, before too long, this kid's going to need to be double-teamed on every play. And Fly Down, I had to put 2 people on here for the last one, but Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. Once again, Nick Sirianni couldn't keep control of the game. He couldn't keep this team from shooting itself in the foot. And it's getting really tiresome, and he needs to, perform better and do a better job with what he has at his disposal. And Brian Johnson, once again, this Seattle team was without Jamal Adams and Devin Witherspoon, and we put up less than 20 points on them. I know the weather was a factor, but we were just flat out terrible on offense. And we can blame the players as much as we want, but every week we seem to run boneheaded plays and just really strange things. And I just don't think that Brian Johnson is putting them in the positions to succeed in the best way that they can. And I don't know how long until they take the play calling off him, because right now I just don't feel like this team is going to be able to be successful with him as the coordinator. It's just that simple. Now, I know I've probably done a bit of a rant through there, but I am going to... This is my rant of the week. My subject is this fucking team. I tell you what, I am so tired of the quotes and the BS from our players. Every week, we're going to correct this, we're going to correct that, we get back to work, blah, blah, blah. There's always another opportunity in this league. There's next week. It's all just piss in the wind at the moment because we don't improve on anything. There's no action. We're not seeing anything change. There's no drive. There's no will. There's no want. There's no fight in this team at the moment. We look weak. We look battered. We look beaten. Where has this team gone? Like last year, this team would have scratched and clawed every bit to get this job done, and we just look like we give up the second things get tough. There's been some changes, but this team was 10-1 on the back of some great wins, and we've now dropped to 10-4. And honestly, do we look like a playoff team? I know we've clinched it and we're going to be there, but geez, this could be an embarrassing finish to the year if we do not change things really quick, because we look like we've fallen off a cliff. Like, put it simply, we can't score, we can't get to the quarterback, we can't force turnovers, and we can't stop turning the ball over. It's a disaster right now. Jalen Hurts just refuses to scan the field at the moment. He just heaves and hopes. His best work at the moment is as a running back, and he's still running on a bung knee. It's disastrous. Like, I don't know where this quarterback who was so efficient and so good at passing the ball last year has just disappeared to. And James Bradbury, flat out, he couldn't cover a dinner plate with a tarp. He is useless, and he is a thief. He is stealing money from this team right now. And to be honest, every team that has let him go, they're laughing at us right now going, you were the idiots who fell for it. Brian Johnson is the worst coordinator in the league, bar none. I will not accept anyone else as a worse coordinator because this guy has so much talent at his disposal and he can't score. 3 weeks in a row without 20 points. I don't know how this guy still has a job. He's the worst in the league, bar none. I refuse to accept anyone else as worse than him. And honestly, these next 3 games mean sweet fuck all. I don't care if you can score on the Giants or if you can, keep the Cardinals from, barely doing a thing against you, because what does that matter? None of those teams are who you have to beat in the playoffs. Winning those games might help us win the division and all this and that and get some momentum, but they mean sweet fuck all. We've failed the challenge these last few weeks. We've got 3 weeks basically to correct it and get to the playoffs, and at that point, it's all or nothing at that point, and I have no idea whether this team will be ready. My worry, we're pissing this season away. We don't have the time to make the adjustments to turn it around. And I right now, at this current point, I think we're headed for a swift playoff exit. Maybe it might not be the wild card round, but it might be we beat a crap wild card team or something along those lines. Maybe we finish 5th seed and play the NFC South winner, which will be, likely an easy beat. But then we would be smashed in the second round, in the divisional round. And that's my worry right now. All right. Well, it's a pretty somber day. It's a pretty bad night. There's not much else to really say. It hasn't gone our way. We've just got to get things right, and we hope for a better tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, we're going to do this every week, and we're going to keep riding with it. I hope you enjoyed the second episode, and we'll keep going. Let's get a break. Go Birds on 3. 1, 2, 3, go Birds!